Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something that feels a bit like high-stakes poker. But, the chips are grades, and the pot is a child's entire future.
It really is. We're talking about the hunt for the next generation of scientists and engineers in the Philippines' National Capital Region.
Exactly. And imagine this. There's a single gateway, like a massive filter, that controls access to 18 of the most prestigious public science high schools in Metro Manila.
It's a funnel, really. And for so many families, getting a child into one of these schools is, well, it's like winning a golden ticket. It can set the trajectory for their whole life.
We're not just talking about better textbooks.
No, not at all. We're talking about a completely different ecosystem of learning.
Right. And navigating this used to be, frankly, a nightmare. Different dates, different forms, different rules for every school.
Oh, the horror stories. Parents taking days off work just to run from one city to another, trying to keep it all straight.
But today, we've got our hands on a real game changer. We're looking at Regional Memorandum number 045, series of 2026.
It sounds super bureaucratic, I know.
It does.
But this document is basically the Regional Unified Admission Guidelines. And that word unified is the key to everything. It's a massive shift.
So our mission today is to decode this new system for you. If you're a parent of a bright grade 6 student, or maybe you're that student, we're going to break it all down.
We'll cover eligibility, the one-school policy, which is a huge deal, the big exam, and the brutal math behind how they actually rank these kids.
And what I like is that the source text is very clear about its goals. It uses words like equity, transparency.
And this is the interesting part, removing undue influence. It's an attempt to make sure the only thing getting you in is your brain, not, who you know.
I love that. Let's level the playing field. So let's start with that unified concept. Why was this even necessary? What's really changing?
Well, traditionally, you'd have all these schools kind of doing their own thing, different timelines, maybe different standards.
A bit of chaos.
A lot of chaos. So the Department of Education, NCR, is stepping into, and this is their word, harmonize the admission policies. The memo says they want to address inconsistencies in admission practices.
Harmonize. That sounds nice, but it usually means stricter rules, doesn't it?
It does. It means standardization. This covers 17 legislated science high schools and the one regional science high school, which is Quezon City Science High.
So no more shopping around for the school with the easiest entry requirements.
Precisely. The standards are now set at the regional level to make sure access is purely merit-based.
And when you look at these target schools, the number of slots, it's all over the place.
Not even close to being even. Which brings us to the first bit of strategy, knowing your odds. If you look at the enclosure, it lists the number of students to be admitted.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. A school like Manila Science High School, they're taking 245 students. That's a pretty big number.
Right, and Quezon City Science High is taking 300. Muntinlupa is taking 280.
But then you get to some of the other cities.
Right. Look at Malabon City or Navotas. Both are capped at 105 students each.
Wow, that's a huge difference. 300 versus 105. That really shows how critical it is to understand this. You can't just wing it.
It forces you to be realistic. This isn't a lottery, so before you even get in the door, you have to pass the first test, the checklist. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of who can even apply.
Okay, so this is for incoming grade 7 students. You have to be a Filipino citizen, a grade 6 pupil who's a candidate for graduation.
Or an elementary grad who hasn't enrolled in high school yet. That's pretty standard. But let's talk grades, because this is the first major filter.
And it is strict. The source lays it out very clearly. You need to look at your grade 5 final grades and your grade 6 first and second quarter grades.
And pay attention to the subjects. For science, math, and English, the magic number is 85%. You need a final grade of at least 85 in all three.
So if you got an 84 in math in grade 5, even with a 99 in science, you're out.
You're out. The system flags you. No exceptions. It requires consistency. And for all your other subjects, you need a minimum of 83%.
Okay, 85 for the big three, 83 for everything else. Seems clear. But hang on, there's a twist for Quezon City Science High School, right?
Yes, the Regional Science High School. It has a special provision. The bar is higher.
Of course it is. How much higher?
For QCSHS, you need a grade of at least 87% in science, math, and English. And for all the other subjects, you need 85%.
Wow. So an 86 in science would get you into Manila or Pasig, but it won't even get you in the door at Quezon City Science.
Exactly. And that's vital because of the application rules we're about to get into. You can't waste your one shot on a school where you don't even meet the minimums.
And one more thing before we move on. It isn't a number.
Right. Character. You need a certification of good moral character from your principal. They want kids who are not just smart, but also disciplined.
Makes sense. Okay, so I've got my grades. I'm a good kid. How do I apply? This brings us to the application process. And there's one massive don't here.
The golden rule. And they put this in bold for a reason. A student can only apply to one science high school.
One. Just one.
Yeah.
This is where the game theory kicked in, isn't it?
It creates a massive strategic dilemma. You can't shotgun your application to 3 or 4 schools and see what sticks. You have to choose.
That's immense pressure, because if you aim too high and miss, there's no backup science high school. You just go to a regular high school.
It forces you to really assess your own competitiveness. It's a real gamble.
Now, the good news is the application itself is free. No fees.
Which is great. That's part of the equity goal. Don't let money be a barrier.
Okay, so for the documents, it's a specific list. So if you're listening, grab a pen. You need the application form, your grade 5 and 6 report cards, original and photocopy.
Your PSA birth certificate original and photocopy.
Yep.
2 2x2 ID photos with a white background. And here's a detail people always miss.
What's that?
Everything needs to go in one long brown envelope.
A long ground envelope, not a plastic one.
No. A long brown envelope, properly labeled. And it seems like a small thing, but it's really a test of compliance. If you can't follow that simple instruction.
How are you going to follow a complex lab procedure? Got it. Show them you can follow instructions. And where do you take this magical envelope?
To the school admission committee of the specific school you chose. Not the regional office. You go to the school.
And the dates are critical.
Very. For the 2026-2027 school year, the deadline for submission is February 13th, 2026.
February 13th. So that window is tight. If you're hearing this in early February, you need to move fast.
It's a firm deadline. After that, the schools consolidate their lists, and then we get to the main event.
The gauntlet. They call it the USA SHE.
The Unified Science High School Admissions Test. This is the great equalizer.
What's the format? Is it pen and paper?
No, the source says it's a computer-based examination. It's 150 items, and the date is set for Saturday, March 7, 2026.
150 items. That's a marathon. And computer-based, so you need to be comfortable with that format.
You do, but what's really fascinating is how they use the score from this test.
Right, this is the ranking part. Because a good score isn't enough, is it?
Not at all. You have to beat the other applicants for your chosen school. And the final ranking is an 80-20 split.
80-20.
80% of your final rank comes from your US8 exam score. The other 20% comes from an interview.
Wow, so the test is basically everything. You can't charm your way in if you bomb the test.
Impossible. The test is the gatekeeper. And they even categorize the results to decide who gets an interview. The results come out March 18th, and you're either Category A, B, or C.
Okay, break that down. What's Category A?
Category A is the top tier. You scored a general average of 75% or above on the test. If you're in Category A, you automatically get an interview. You've cleared the first hurdle.
And Category B?
Category B is for scores between 60 and 74%. Now, this puts you on the bubble. You might get an interview, but only if there are slots left after all the Category A kids are considered.
So you're basically on the wait list for the interview?
Pretty much. And then Category C is anyone below 60%. For them, the process ends there.
Brutal. And I'm guessing the QCSHS twist applies here too.
It does, and it's a big one. For Quezon City Science, a 75% average isn't enough to be Category A. You need a 75% average, and you must have scored at least 75% in all domains of the exam.
Oh, wow. So if you get a 95 in math but a 70 in English, your average might be high.
But that 70 in English knocks you down to Category B for QCSHS. They demand consistency, no weak links.
That is an incredibly high standard.
Okay, so you make it through. You're Category A. You get the interview.
The interviews happen from March 23rd to 27th. This is for that final 20% of your score.
And after that, you're in.
Almost.
Oh.
There's one final trapdoor.
Of course there is.
It's the enrollment condition. Your admission is conditional on your final grade 6 report card. You have to prove you maintain those 85 and 83% grades all the way to the end of the year.
So no slacking off in the fourth quarter. None. If your grades dip, they can revoke your slot. Imagine that heartbreak.
Man, they do not let up. So the final list of passers comes out between April 6th and 10th.
It does, but that's just the start of the next challenge, because getting in is hard. But as we'll see, staying in is a whole other survival game.
Let's talk about that, the retention guidelines. The pressure doesn't stop, does it?
It absolutely does not. Once you're in, you have to maintain a final grade of at least 85% in science, math, and English.
Every single year.
Every single year. And 83% in all other subjects. If a grade drops below that during the year, you get a warning slip.
A warning slip. Sounds ominous.
It's a wake-up call. Because if you don't meet the requirements by the end of the year, the memo says the student shall be transferred to a regular high school.
You get kicked out.
You lose your spot, yes.
That is high stakes. It's not just about being smart. It's about being consistently smart for years.
And it's not just academics. There are non-academic requirements, too. Attendance is one. You can't miss more than 20% of school days.
Okay, that's pretty standard.
Right. And then there's behavior. They list the core values, Makadios, Makatao, and so on. A student has to get at least an SO rating.
Oh? What's that?
Sometimes observed.
Wait, sometimes observed is the minimum? That sounds surprisingly low.
Well, it's the floor. It means you can't be rated as not observed. But the bigger requirement is engagement. You have to participate in science-related activities.
Like science fairs and research projects?
Exactly. It's mandatory. You can't just be a good test taker. You have to be an active contribuum scientist.
I like that. It forces you to actually apply the knowledge. It justifies the investment.
It's a holistic approach.
So just to recap the most critical dates for everyone listening. The application period ends February 13th, 2026. The big test, the USAT, is on March 7th, 2026.
And if you run into any issues, the memo actually lists a contact person, which is pretty great. Mr. Don King O. Evangelista.
Don King. You don't forget that name.
He's the regional focal person, and his email is right there in the memo. So there's a direct line for clarifications, which adds to the transparency.
That's incredibly helpful. You know, going through all this, the whole process just feels so engineered.
It has to be. I mean, think about the bigger picture. The source says this is all tied to national development goals. They're not just filling classrooms. They're trying to build a pipeline of people who are going to solve the country's biggest problems.
And by unifying the system, by trying to remove that undue influence, they're trying to make sure the people in that pipeline are the ones who truly earned it.
Exactly. Which, it raises a big question for me. When you read that they're trying to remove undue influence and inconsistencies, it makes you wonder, how many brilliant minds did we lose in the past? How many kids didn't get a shot because they didn't know the right person or because of some bureaucratic quirk?
That's a haunting thought. A generation of innovators lost to a messy system.
It's possible. But it's also a hopeful thought, right? Because maybe, starting with this 2026 batch, we finally stop losing them.
That's the hope. A streamlined, merit-based boom in innovation.
And for the parents and students listening, just remember, one school, brown envelope, 85%. Good luck.
Well, if you are applying, best of luck. Get that brown envelope ready, study hard for the USAT, and pick that one school wisely. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.